Liberty Nation with Tim Donner.
Democrats headed for the ditch. Why has the left and the Democratic Party been unable to exploit their control of the White House and both branches of Congress? And what does this mean for Republicans and conservatives? We're back for one more shot with our B&B panel, the best and brightest from LibertyNation.com, Lisa K. Donner, Mark Angelides, and Scott Cosenza. So now I'm going to ask each of you to put yourself in the position of a Democrat. You've got control of the White House and Congress, and you're looking at this seemingly golden opportunity to check things off your wish list. But you see the Republicans refuse to give an inch, and defectors in your own ranks, like Joe Manchin, stalling the left-wing agenda. What to do if you're a Democrat voter or a Democrat office holder? So, Mark, how important would it be to you, as someone who voted against Trump, to have Joe Biden reverse essentially all of Trump's executive orders and policies, including those regarding the southern border?
It depends on my level of TDS, my level of Trump derangement syndrome. I'll try and answer as
the TDS meter.
The TDS meter, not like the Macker meter for Terry McAuliffe, who's just won the
which you wrote about so eloquently.
So for me, if I were a Democrat voting for those things, these are very hard words to get out, Tim. I've got to be fair. They're very hard words to get out. But in terms of what would I remove from Trump's agenda, if I were a sane Democrat, as I'm sure the majority are, I would be more interested in which purposeful elements of legislation that could be withdrawn. If I were a Trump deranged syndrome person, which tend to get the media spotlights, that tend to get the guest spots on the MSNBC, ABC, etc., I would say that I've got to destroy everything that Trump ever did, despite, as we know, the border efforts worked. We've seen 180,000 in May, which is a massive increase. We've seen the economy taking hit after hit.
Okay, so Scott, what would be the one initiative you would place at the top of the agenda, the single thing that needs to get done, either because it's most important or most realistic, if you put yourself in the position of a Democratic voter?
Well, I've been a registered Democrat in my life. I've been a registered Republican. I've been a registered Libertarian and a registered Independent. So I have no problem.
You're very open-minded. I've always said that about you, Scott. Yeah.
Time to grow up and make up your mind.
I am promiscuous with my party registration, and I have made up my mind, Lisa. The reason why those switches, they don't indicate a switch in my ideology or mindset. It's just I have this chaotic belief that I might actually make a difference in voting in some primary. So in order to vote for one candidate or against another, I might switch my party registration. So with that in mind, I think that the one issue, Tim, and I don't know that it's solvable at all. I suggest it's probably not solvable, but they could really do some good if they actually tried to make an effort at the border in a meaningful way. So I don't know what that means in terms of getting those kids out of the Obama cages, but I think if they did and then actually had real photo ops at the border with some amelioration of those horrible conditions, that would help. I see from time to time, I watch the Jimmy Dore program. He's a progressive Democrat who attacks them from the left, and I see a lot of attacks coming from the left on this immigration thing, and I think that's why the White House actually let Kamala take a bunch of heat on it this week, because they want to shift it away from Biden. So if that's where so much heat is, they can cool it down by doing something to help the situation.
Okay, now, Lisa, you have been a Democrat in the past, didn't change your registration or anything. So I can ask you, coming from a Democratic perspective, putting yourself in the position of being a Democrat, how would you rate Joe Biden's performance over his first almost 5 months in office.
Well, I guess I would have to say that not being Trump counts for a lot if I'm a Democrat. I think the folks that voted for Biden may have felt some initial relief. The frenetic pace of Trump, the rancor between the media and the president, the daily, battle. But again, Joe Biden, I'm starting to feel, if I had voted for him, if I was a Democrat, it's time to move forward, get a little something done, some sort of legislation. You don't go down as a great president, as a great placeholder. Most of what presidents are remembered for are the pieces of legislation that got passed, not for the number of executive orders they put a pen to. Again, LBJ, you had civil rights legislation. Reagan and Trump, you had tax cuts. Obama, like it or not, you have Obamacare. I mean, Joe
there's
Biden.
There's a story of LBJ going to the hospital or something like that. He had an incident that turned out to be not much, and he comes back to the White House, and the aides and so forth are all gathered around for his return, just because the way he left. And he says, "What's everybody standing around for? Let's pass some legislation."
And of course, LBJ passed more legislation, I believe, than any president in American history. So in terms of volume of legislation, LBJ would be near, if not at the head of the list. But the amount of legislation coming out of this Democratic majority in the Congress is very little. I'm wondering, and I'm going to throw this open to any of you who care to answer, if the Democrats, since they hold control of both houses of Congress and the White House, they're going to take credit or get blamed for everything that happened between January of this year and November of next year. Is that an advantageous position for them? Or is that something that they might say, well, maybe it would have been better if the Republicans actually won the Senate, because at least we could blame them for blocking things?
Tim, they will already be blaming the Republicans for every failure, because the cozy media cartel, or as Jeff Charles, an author at libertynation.com, calls them, the activist media, are pushing that anyway. Every failure is a Republican fault. Every success is a Democrat only win. There's no way in the...
It's like this: when you read the story about the legislator or the politician gone wrong, you know that they're a Democrat because they don't mention the party affiliation in the top of the story or the headline, right? And if it's a Republican, it could be a dog catcher, but you'll read about a Republican elected official does such and such.
For sure.
I think it really is time for Joe Biden and company to put up or shut up. If they're going to get something done, they got to do it soon, because 2022 is just around the corner.
Who are we? We are Americans that believe in liberty. We are a project of the nonprofit One Generation Away. We are patriots who apply the founding principles to the issues of today.
And they keep moving the goalposts on us.
We are educators and commentators who love America and the Constitution. Who are we? We are Liberty Nation.